welcome everybody to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross, where I am your host and resource for education, connections, and collaborations to support you on your wellness journey. And before we start, I want to thank our sponsor today and our guest speaker, who's got a 2-for-1 today, for sponsoring this episode, Mark Amell from DMA Consulting. So as you know, I am all about self-care and mindfulness, and it crosses over all realms of life, especially business. If you are a business owner or a solopreneur and you're trying to wear all of those hats, because we can't excel in every area that we need to make our business successful. So imagine spending less time on your paperwork and more time fostering growth and innovation. And I have with us today Mark Amell, who excels at turning your hidden gems into shining stars with 30 low-risk and high-return marketing strategies designed to help your small business thrive, which is important because I don't know about you, but I am not the specialist for marketing, and it's always changing. So it's important to have somebody in that area. Mark, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And I couldn't agree more. When you started your business, you don't think about everything else that's going on. You think about doing what you love. And I try to help put you back into that position by making the marketing easy and working for you.
Yeah. And it's a big part of it, right? Because you have to let people know you're in business. Otherwise, they don't know you're in business. And it's always constantly changing. So, when you're bogged down with everything else, it kind of takes the fun out of it if you don't excel in that area. But maybe you can share with us a little bit about your background and how your experience in the Air Force sets you up for your current ventures in business and marketing.
When I was in the military, I was privileged to be able to bring the first artificial intelligence project to the military. That was back in the early 80s. I became an AI programmer, became a solution to helping scientists get the answers that they were looking for, to make them more efficient, not have to go through the drudgery of the work. And being a computer engineer, it was a great challenge to take a look at that. We didn't have any tools at the time, so all the tools, we had to create everything from scratch. I got to work with the think tank, the Joint Chiefs. I got to work with a lot of upper people that had a lot of input to it, but it was a great time.
Yeah, and that's definitely one thing that I know a lot of people. I myself used to love computers and put stuff in and see how it works, but I've seen it cause a lot of stress and frustration with other people. And like you said, it takes the fun out of what you're really kind of passionate about, right?
Right. And at the same time, in the early 80s, Google kind of took over the search engine world, but they use AI for their search queries. So I think it gave me a better understanding of how Google thinks and why do we care. 90% of the searches are done on Google. And, understanding how they do, why they work, allows you to be good to it, nice to them, give them the answers, the data that they want so they can pick you.
Right. Now, you mentioned about developing the first artificial intelligence program while in the Air Force. How did that experience shape your approach to marketing today?
Because marketing is about when people look for you, they want to in order to find you, you have to put everything in the right format. So understanding how the different searches works, how to find them, it's important because instead of just throwing everything out without a purpose, everything that we do to be efficient has to have a purpose, has to answer those questions so that Google picks you. Google's kind of funny in that its prime directive, if you will, is to give the best answers. But it also spends probably over half its budget on trying to stop the cheaters, people that are going away around the corner to get better results, but it's only for a short term, and then they slam you back. So with my systems, and I didn't really realize this until I got going, but because I did it the way Google wanted, the way LinkedIn wanted to show up, to be found, even though there's been a dramatic number of changes, I haven't had to change anything because I always tried to do it the right way the first time. And because I understood the right way, it made that difference.
Yeah, it reminds me of an old term that we used to use when I was writing computer programs: garbage in, garbage out. People try to give it something and expect this miraculous answer, but if you really didn't give it enough in the first place, then you're probably not going to get the right answer back that you're looking for, right?
No, for sure. Yeah, we lived with that, and the KISS principle, keep it simple.
Yep. I remember all of those. So many small business owners, though, feel overwhelmed by marketing options. What are some of the hidden gems that you believe they might be overlooking?
I think one of the things that I don't want to say fighting against, but there's 3 areas of marketing. And one is, can they find you? What do they find when they do find you? Follow up on all your leads. And the third person is, I've converted sales funnels into marketing funnels. You don't keep trying to get a sales coupon, every day to somebody. They don't want to be bothered. They're not going to even look at it. But if you offer them help in solving their problems, they're going to be more receptive and actually look at it, and you're going to get their attention because you're trying to help them. So one of the competing with other marketing companies and seeing how they do, even the gurus that I worked with, they offer 4 or 5 services, but they don't cover all the areas. So those 4 or 5 services, you have to outspend your competition. Meaning basically you need a $500,000 to $1 million company to start with to be able to spend $20,000 on marketing, which is not available to small businesses. But by spending a little bit of money on all the areas, it can work a lot more effectively and you can compete.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because as a small business, we're trying to gain that. So most of us don't have that kind of investment capital to invest in the first place, especially not to throw it all into marketing, because let's face it, we have other systems, other things we have to do and take care of as well.
Yeah, I've had a home business now for 25 years and, raising kids and stuff. I couldn't put $20,000 into marketing and hope that it worked.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that there was 30 ways to market. So can you give us a sneak peek into maybe some of those strategies and how they can benefit small businesses?
There's SEO, which is what Google evaluates on you, but it's SEO, search engine optimization, is Google looking at everything that you write, your websites, your profiles, and deciding if you have answering the question that was asked and if they should put you on that front page. So you've got SEO. You got local SEO, which there's 50 to 70 different local directories in your area. Google looks at that secondly to see if you've got it filled out. If you spell road RD one place and ROAD the next place, it says, I don't know which to display, so I'm not going to display anything. So it doesn't help you. It looks at its Google profile. Have you looked at your Google profile when somebody just types in it and your profile comes to the right? Like it says Laura Cross, and it comes up on the right. It's using the Google profile to display that. So you can control what's being displayed. There's also a place to put at the bottom of it to put posts. It shows your services. So the more information it can gather from there, the more it's going to feel comfortable with you.
I did mess with the Google profiles some years ago, a little bit when I had first had a website built. But to be honest, no, that's not something. It's not something I normally have time for and don't even know. But that's good to know. So even those little small inconsistencies, like you said, typing out the word road or RD, then it just totally ignores you. So it sounds like if you're not consistent, it just doesn't know what to do with you.
Yeah, it doesn't know. And I have software that updates all the directories, but I also update them every month because Google looks at the last update date. So if you do a couple updates, but you don't have touched in a year, Google says, I don't know if they're in business or not. So you have to, every month I go in and I update all those through the software. So and tell Google, hey, I'm still alive, I'm still here.
So is that one thing you help your clients do too, is kind of stay updated and take that off their plate for them?
I do. My whole goal is, because I've had business, I don't want to say I'm a business coach, but because I've been 25 years in business, I want the marketing to work with the company so that everybody in the company has the same message. If somebody calls and says, hey, I saw your ad, they should be able to answer the question on that ad. It shouldn't be something foreign. Back in the days when I was programming for telemarketing rooms, they would lock up the salespeople because they didn't want any negative energy going into the sales room. But now it has to be more of a company-wide, support. And with the marketing funnel, you turn salespeople into order taker, customer service people. You don't want your salesperson talking that customer into something. They get buyer's remorse. The salesperson bothers them. They write a bad review. It just doesn't end well.
Yeah, and I've seen those too, or what I call having people hit you like with the used car sales approach all the time, and they're just like there's like no human interaction, which is one reason why I love AI. But then there's a part where I don't want it to go so far where things get impersonal with it.
What's funny about AI is Google uses an equation, EEEAT, education, experience, expertise, trustworthiness, authority, when it evaluates you. AI doesn't know your experience. It doesn't know how to bond you. You can tell it what type of person you are, but it can't do the same kind of level that you are. So when you're competing with something that was written in AI, you have to put your experience. Why should people believe you when they read your article? And if you don't have any of that in there, Google has software that evaluates this article. Well, it says, 80% was written from AI. So it's not going to give you the brownie points that you're looking for, right?
Right.
So AI is kind of tricky. I like it as far as helping you think about other things, thinking outside the box. But it's not the end all. You've got some programmer that is giving you the answer from whatever they programmed. Or do you want them really making all your life decisions or not?
Right. And I have used it because, if you're not feeling necessarily creative and stuff, you can have it to sound like you or what you're looking for. And boy, in seconds, it'll spit something out and it takes a lot of time off my plate. But I always read over everything. And if it don't sound right, I'm not using it. But I don't just solely rely on it, because I've seen some people just solely rely on it. Oh, look what I'm doing for you and send that to me. And I'm like, okay, my guest name isn't even spelled right. Things are like all jumbled. And I'm like, why would you think that would make me want to work with you or hire you to do stuff if you can't even get some of my own things right? So I think some people make the mistake of relying on it maybe a little too much. But
I had a lady that said that she was using ChatGPT to rewrite her English because her first language was French. And I said, okay, what happens when they agree to you, you built this rapport, and they get onto a Zoom with you? They're not going to recognize the person in everything that got them to talk to you, right? Because they're going to hear that accent. They're going to, maybe slightly not perfect English, which I don't have either, obviously, right now. But
we all go through that.
But you want to come out authentic.
Yeah.
And you can use it for ideas, but you can also Google has the largest search database there is. So you can go and put something into Google, and if you scroll down, you can see that it has people also ask. If you open those and close them, you're going to get a list of like 20. But those are done in the order of popularity of search. So if you can go in, you can pick the one, well, this is what I want to write about, put that into it, go back down to people also ask, and you've got your subtopics. So now you've got the outline of a paper in just a few minutes.
Yeah, an outline. It's not, you're not writing it for you. It's just giving you an outline. It's giving you a
just giving you an outline.
guide of where to start. So, like I said, anything can be taken too far. People have done it. People are going to do it, but it can be a great tool. So, what's the most effective low risk or high return marketing strategy that you've implemented for your clients?
It's hitting all three areas. I check their profiles. I like local SEO. I like to make sure that what happens when somebody calls in, and then your marketing funnel. I take a look at people and I say, what happens if you get 20 new sales tomorrow? If I give you 20 leads, can you call everybody? If one of the sayings that I've heard a lot where you can't scale a mess. So if the business is a mess and they can't handle more work, and you're just going to make that new customer leave you. So I take a look at kind of where they're at. And then we take the best of all three areas. I always look to make sure all the areas are covered. Because otherwise it doesn't work. It's like having three-legged step stool, right? And you take one of the legs out and it's not going to work too well.
Right. And there's so many platforms out there. Do you work with most of them? Or, because you got LinkedIn, Instagram, you got Facebook, you've got Google. There's a ton of stuff out there.
It depends on if you're going business to business, you want to get the right type of people, then you want to go to LinkedIn. They have started out as an employment site. So there's a lot of data on the right people to find. If you want to go out and you want to go to B2C, business to consumer, maybe you want to go to TikTok, maybe you want to go to Twitter, maybe you want to go to Facebook and try to get into that and get into groups to start building relationships up. One of the things that people forget, though, is that it's your database of email addresses is gold. And if you connect with people on Facebook and I've got 1,000 connections, but if you don't have their email address in your database and you get shut down on Facebook, you've just lost all that. And
yeah, and that happens. And people told me that because I belong to several network marketing companies too, where you got a whole ton of, people or team members and stuff. But if this business decided to no longer be, and you no longer have a back office, if you didn't back that up or have that somewhere else, then you lose all those contacts. Same kind of concept.
I was in the position where hurricane wiped everything out on me. But I had my list, my 2 computers, and I was able to rebuild fairly quickly. But if I hadn't had all that backed up, I would have been lots of trouble.
So do you recommend them to back those things up periodically, like on an external hard drive, like a terabyte hard drive or something that doesn't get affected?
Yeah, I have a terabyte backup drive that, one night I'll say, just copy my whole hard drive and it goes off. And, the terabyte, you can get a 5 terabyte hard drive. It doesn't cost all that much, now. I remember when I got my first big hard drive, 320 meg, I was so excited. I didn't think I'd ever fill it.
I had a 500 gig Maxter backup hard drive, and I bought it after my husband died because the computer had crashed. I had lost a lot of pictures and everything on there, and I had people resend me my pictures. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be smart, and I got them all backed up on this Maxter. But since it plugs in and it uses all this other stuff, guess what went out on the Maxter? The drive. So now I can't get to all of those files that were saved on that one. So yes, lessons learned. So watch what media, for one, that you get to back your hard drive up. Simple little drives I don't think are such a problem, but this one had like its own little drive or motor that would spool up and it conked out.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah. So anyway, not to digress, but that's, good things to back up. Mark, I know we have a lot more things we need to discuss, and we can go into a lot more detail, especially about what some people need to do or look at for marketing and how you can help them and take those worries off. But we are going to come right back after we have a word from our sponsor here, and we'll see you in a minute.
Are you feeling that marketing is a scam and doesn't work? Have you spent thousands of dollars on marketing without any of the promised results? Have you spent more hours than you can count trying to figure out how to grow your business or just not go out of business? Do you spend too much time on worrying about sales and marketing and not enough enjoying why you started your business in the first place? Hello, I am Mark Amell, a 35-year home business owner facing the same questions you have fought with. After spending over $75,000 on working with the top marketing gurus around the world, I discovered the solution. There is a reason why 90% of million-dollar small businesses use over 10 marketing techniques, and 86% of struggling small businesses use one or two. I have defined and built over 30 ways to market and bring the 10 most appropriate techniques to a small business at an affordable price, then take satisfaction in watching them grow. My goal is simple: help 1,000 small businesses in the next 10 years. Are you ready to be one of those small businesses? Contact me at Mark, M-A-R-K, at DMAworld.com. And let's disrupt marketing and grow your business today. Thank you.
So Mark, let's break that down a little bit, because there's a lot of times where we get offers to do marketing ads and certain things, but you don't have any return from it. All you get is hit up with more people wanting you to market with them. So you do kind of feel scammed or like they're ineffective. So how do you ensure that every dollar spent on marketing works harder for your clients?
The first thing I look at is, what do you do? Like, I had a $500 million business, $500 million business, want to sell me marketing for $3,000 a month. And I says, okay. It took me about 4 hours to figure out all they did was SEO. So they're doing, 2, 3, 4 services. But if you don't hit those 3 pillars, it's not going to work. And it's going to take a lot longer. They'll tell you, okay, we're going to get started with it, but SEO takes 3 months. It takes 6 months to see the results on it. 9 months it's dead if you don't continue to nurture it. I continue to nurture every month. But what these other companies are doing, they know it's going to die in 9 months. So after 3 months, they stop working on it and start selling the next group. So you have to look at how many services they're doing. And if they don't cover all those 3 areas, then I don't want to say you're wasting your money, but one of the reasons I got into this is I've seen so many people, crying on the Zoom. Basically I gave away my last $10,000 that I didn't have. I had to get rid of a couple employees, and I want to fix that problem. It's fixable. I just want to educate people, and that's why I appreciate being on this show. But I want to educate them that they have to do a little bit in every area. And I offer free consultations if they want to contact me, if they want to come to my free marketing classes, or email me. That's not a problem for me. I enjoy helping people.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of it too, because when you're trying to hire and get help and you're trusting someone to do that, but you don't know enough about it,
Yeah.
who knows what they're doing on the other end until you, like you said, you've lost all your money. It didn't do anything like they said it would do, but then they'll have whatever clause saying, oh, well, we did what we told you it would do, and you have no recourse. And definitely when you're a small business owner, that's a problem.
No, it is. And I think the biggest thing to take away is that there's 3 areas. And if you're not covered in all 3 areas, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. So given that you've been in the internet marketing space for quite some time, how has your approach evolved over the years?
Well, I've been in internet marketing. This is my 10th year anniversary this month. So I'm excited about that. It's evolved because as a programmer, I started with SEO. I looked at how Google thinks, and it started growing because people were asking for leads. Okay, how do I solve leads? But as I said, I spent $75,000 working with all the marketing gurus around the world, and it took me a little bit to figure out that each person is doing 4 or 5 services, but I need to do all of them to work for a small business. So that's how I kind of started from the beginning, because being an engineer, programmer, trying to think of how to build it, of course, I tested a lot of different things, and I'm like, I'm not getting the results I wanted. But that was because, people would buy 100 leads. Okay, I bought 100 leads for only 10 cents each. And I call them all. They don't say anything, but I've got no follow-up. I don't have my pitch perfected. I don't have, if somebody says, how do I ask, if they ask me for more information, do I even have a website or a landing page up? I don't, because I've just focused on getting leads.
Right.
So looking at the whole picture, it got to be pretty messy. But once I started bringing down that big mess to manageable pieces, it started working really well. And, just like any business, I have a guy that does my Google ads because he's better at it than I am. So when I go along talking to people, I try to find somebody that's better at different areas than I am. I don't want to have any employees and deal with all that, but I do want to have a network of people. And one of the secrets that I have is I write SOPs on everything, standing operating procedures, so that it has my voice in everything they do. It's that if I hire somebody to do the Google ads, they have to follow these instructions so that I know it's consistent.
Right. Yeah, and that's an important part. And you mentioned people in tears, and it just kind of reminded me of thought. So my first business that I really launched into my own to be my own small business person was my travel, and I am still a travel agent. But I launched that like back in 2007, and I would be one of those people that got scammed. Because they call you and they say, oh, but you want to be able to be the first thing that pops up when they Google search you, be on page 1. And yeah, that was like to the tune of 30,000, but being a widow from the military, they could do it for 17,000.
Yeah.
I threw everything at it because I wanted to be successful. Then when I realized, then I couldn't get a hold of people. I mean, they had these little flags. They made the numbers go up or whatever, but then you couldn't get a hold of them and you couldn't get the answers. So I got a hold of my credit cards. I got the payments like stopped and reversed. And then they could call me once that happened. But yeah, it's very upsetting when people are out there. And I mean, what do you tell people? Because some people that don't know, and yes, they want to be found, they want to be successful, about the whole promise of, oh yes, we can make sure you show up on the first page of Google.
It doesn't take them long just to send me an email, but look at what they're doing and ask them how they're doing it. But again, to your point about customer service, I don't deal with anybody that I can't get a hold of. And people are like, oh yeah, we've got all this network, and you just have to hit these 10 buttons and 20 clicks and you'll get help. well, I don't know how to get back there. How do you get somebody on the phone? And I got somebody the other day on a Zoom call, and we only do sales. I don't know those answers, big ego. Yeah, this thing is great. And I'm like, no. So I sent an email back saying, cancel my account. I can't get any support. And all of a sudden I got all the support I needed.
Yeah. And that just shouldn't happen. I mean, you shouldn't have to threaten that. And I like the fact that, you're out here, you're honest. It's someone you can see, someone can tell you, what they're going through, because you work hard to build your business and you want it marketed properly. You don't want someone putting out something that's not true, that misrepresents you, or, just totally undermines everything that you've been trying to build. Or like you said, takes all your fun and passion out of doing what you're doing.
And I like to get people back. I tell people in my free class, I said, there's 7 reasons that business fails. And the last one is that you're not doing what you got into business for, what your passion is. It says, how can you get rid of all the rest of that noise so that you can go back to enjoying your business? I took a guy that he was a great guy. He went out, did 8 hours of work, service industry, come home and work 4 hours doing paperwork and reminder calls. And it was it was hard on the family, hard on him. He wasn't enjoying himself. And I got him down to 20 minutes a night. And he was, basically that's a life changer.
Yeah. That definitely is, because one of the reasons a lot of us go into business for ourselves is so that we can be there for our family and spend more time with them, not to have it take even more time and then you don't ever see your family. It kind of defeats the whole purpose.
That was one of the reasons I started the home business, was that I wanted to help raise my kids. I wanted to be around my kids when they're growing up.
Yeah.
So that was one of my main drivers.
So maybe you can share with us, Mark, a little bit, like a solopreneur or a small business owner, what does that process look like when they contact you? Kind of what the steps are that they go through to work with you?
Well, my onboarding is a couple forms they fill out. We have a discussion. We talk about their goals. And we talk about what are they selling. People get their offer has got all this fluff around it. I says, no, what are you selling? What service? And you have to sell the 1-1-1 rule. You have to sell one service. You have to have one target market, one avatar, one lead source, because then you test it. You're only testing one thing. You don't try to say, oh, come to my website. I want to sell you all these. And that's where we make a use of a landing page. And I'm kind of going off track, but if I go and I say, I don't know anything about fixing a roof, but a roofing hammer sounds like a good idea. And I go to a landing page, it's got 3 roofing hammers and it tells me why each one, I should pick each one. I'm going to pick one of those. If I go to a hardware store and they got 200 hammers, it hasn't helped me at all. So I'm trying to do that for said, okay, what do you want to sell? What's your most profitable? What do you feel good about selling? Where do you have some examples? And then we set up the process for one offer. And we look at what's worked in the past and what's not worked. Okay, we want to capitalize on what has worked, amplify that. But we do a lot of testing along the way to make sure that before you go out to 1 million people, you go across 3 time zones. You want to see if it works first locally, right? Confined area. I can send out through my email server 1 million cold emails a month. But I'm not going to do that until we test the messages. And it's the same way that you can go into a social media, you can post messages. And this is what I do to start people. Mom home. Is because we want them to see what messages work. then you can buy an ad. If you've got a message that's great and it's working, great, go ahead and let's spend money on an ad. But you don't have to spend money on an ad to test your messages. You can do that organically.
So you work with people and help them, because not all of us know how to do that or test them, or how you track them. I mean, I know like my channel, some of them, they have analytics, but a lot of times they don't even provide analytics to you until you have like so many followers or so many subscribers.
Yep. The most important thing about analytics is if I'm going to send, say they tell me, oh, you've got 10,000 opens on your email. Okay, did I make any sales? How much money is in my pocket? You want to look down that customer journey. But the most important analytics is how many sales did you make? Did you accomplish that goal? Or even when somebody's setting a goal, I want to sell a $9.95 book. Okay, how much money do you want to make a month? Well, I want to make $20,000 a month. Okay, so you need to sell $2,000 2,000 books a month.
That's if 100% of it is yours.
Yeah. So maybe we should look at it different, something different, and give away your book for each sale of something that's more. I also look at residual income. My software company pays me, 18 to 20 year customer retention. They've been paying me for 20 years to use my software.
Wow.
So when I go into somebody, I had somebody that said, okay, well, it's a 3-session holistic mentoring. They pay $150 for the 2 sessions. The third one's free. Okay, well, I said, well, what happens if you charge them $100 a month until they tell you to stop? As long as you're providing value, you've got residual income coming. You've got the same amount of money, but they've got no reason to stop. They're going to keep paying you $100 or $97 a month. So just little tweaks like that. Or somebody tells me that, well, I'm going to sell this for $350. Well, the metrics go, if you're going to sell something between 100 and 500, people are going to be willing to pay the 500. So let's test the price to $497. If you tell me it's an $800 product, we can sell it for $1,000. Those same people are going to spend $1,000. Then if you're going to do high ticket, you can test a couple at $2,000, but once you see that it works, you should go to $2,500, and then $3,000 is kind of the magic number. So all those statistics work, and it's kind of like, well, I don't have enough people buying it. I don't know if it's worth that. A lack of confidence in themselves. So I help them try to get over that. So it's not all marketing, but it all relates to it.
Right. There's a lot of parts, and there's some psychology, because I heard you mention it a couple of times, and it's something that I was always told too. I don't know what it is, but instead of saying 1,000, it's 997. As long as you end with a 7, I'm not sure what it is with a 7, but apparently that is more appealing to people than to have the round numbers.
I can't understand it. When I was a kid, I guess they would sell it for $1.97. Oh, it's $1. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Or it's $2. Yeah, rounded up, it's $2. But yeah, I was taught that. I learned that a lot in business too. They always said if you wanted to get something, it's not $200, it's $197. It's not that it's supposed to end in a 7. So there's some psychology to that. I'm not sure why it works, but it does. So what challenges have you faced as a home-based small business, and how have those experiences shaped your consulting services?
I think it's getting people to know you, and as a home business, you have to have a plan, even though you have to have a plan like a big company. You still have to know what your goals are. The challenges of getting enough time in the day, so you've got to be aware enough to subcontract out the work once you get to a certain level, that you can't spend all day entering in data numbers. You got to hire somebody to enter those in, and you do what's critical, at the critical points for your business.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard letting go, especially when you work so hard at something. But then again, in the name of self-care or mindfulness, you should farm that out so that you're not burning yourself out and creating all that stress.
And you got to have that, the mindset, you got to have the balance. So you've got to have rest, you got to have health, you got to have time with your children or pets or whatever. You got to work on your business, being able to focus, and I'm trying to teach people now in my classes that focus is a learned skill that we've forgotten. If you're sitting there working on something and you've got 10 other things running through your head, you're not going to be able to get that completed. Or if you're like I am, 5 feet away from the refrigerator, that's sometimes not the best thing. I'm going to take a break and stroll by the refrigerator, but you've got to get focused. And a lot of it, I used to teach business classes for Clemson, and taught time management was one of them. And it's really important when you're in you're a home business to have that time management. Some people, I was talking to somebody that just started their home business, and I said, if your smart time is 9 to 12 or 8 to 12 in the morning, close the door, and tell your family to support you, that you're going to be left alone between that times. Tell your customers that you're going to call them back between 1 and 3, because, you can do that in and out of doing other things. So get your primary focus, learn to focus on one task, get it done, then do the next task. Because when you're a home business, no one's sitting over there watching. You got your feet up on watching Netflix or something. Nobody's going to yell at you, but you're not going to be happy with the results at the end of the day.
Yep. I used to always tell people I was multitasking, and I have learned that is a myth. There is no such thing. Your brain actually just clicks from one to the other, and if you just focus on that one, you can actually get it done more effectively and quicker than trying to handle a couple of things at the same time. Plus, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel scattered, and I don't feel like I'm giving that person or that item, whatever I'm doing, like my full attention. And
the thing for me is, I think you hit it, is that I can get it done a lot faster if I'm focusing on the one thing. There's another trick that I will share with your audience. I take a look at the schedule for the next day. And the last thing I do before I turn off my computer is I think about the hardest task that I'm going to do in the morning. So overnight, subconsciously, it works on it. And I wake up thinking about the best approach on it.
Yeah, that is amazing how that works. It's like whatever you stick in your head before you go to sleep, you're like you said, your subconscious will work on it for you. But can you talk about the importance of turning new and existing customers into long-term advocates, and what strategies do you recommend in achieving that?
It costs like 10, 15 times more to get a new customer than convert a long customer to a long-time residual customer. And it's really just staying in touch with them, giving them a newsletter, giving them value. Take a look at what you're asking them and making sure that your value more than exceeds what they need, because the objection over price is, you've got to make that a higher priority for them, and you will if you give them enough value. And staying in touch with them, just because they're sending you a check every month, doesn't mean that they're not going to reevaluate it in a year. Right. If you haven't stayed in touch with them and say, hey, how's things going? Or send them a holiday card or Happy New Year. What's new goals? What else can I do for you? It's the same thing as effective communication, listening to your customers. There's some people you've seen conversation, they can't wait until you take a breath so they can jump in with what they've been thinking about. No, sit back and listen. I can't tell you how many people have told me that, wow, you actually listened to what I had to say. they're surprised from it. And they're going to remember that. They're always, that's a very simple thing to do, but it makes it, everybody looks what it's going to make them memorable. I don't have to wear a funny hat or anything. I just have to listen and make them feel like they're appreciated.
Yeah, let them know they're more than a transaction to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as technology continues to evolve, how do you see the role of AI shaping the future of marketing for small businesses?
I think AI is going to give us some ideas, but I see AI going the same way that the internet browsers went. What happened back then was you had Yahoo, Bing, the search engines, they were all up and running and going crazy. And then Google sat back and watched and said, okay, I'm going to do it better. And they waited until they could do it better. And Google's going to come out with some AI masterpiece maybe next year, this year, later this year, or something that is going to kind of overwhelm, I think, all the other ones. I think they're going to take control of that. That's what I'm kind of watching for. But I think people are going to start to learn how to use the AI tools. Technology always costs, gets all this excitement, it costs a lot. And then all of a sudden it starts coming down and people start asking better questions. When ChatGPT first came out, people were copying and pasting. Lawyers were copying and pasting, and the judge throwing it out. And, you hear all kinds of stories. And ChatGPT had a problem because they had collected data till the end of 21. So they started grabbing data everywhere and got banned in Italy for a while because they were taking privacy data. These are all lessons learned.
Right.
So I think it's, as people get smarter about it, I don't want to say smarter, they're
more educated. A lot of times
more educated.
A lot of times we just lack the proper education to understand things.
So I think as people become more educated, I think the roar is going to calm down.
Yeah.
It's going to settle down to being another great tool.
I think it could be too. So lastly, what advice would you give small businesses owners that are just starting out with their marketing efforts, and what should they focus on first?
Focusing on marketing one thing and going through the phases, going through, making sure people can find you, what messages you're purveying, make sure your message is consistent throughout your company, through your profiles. Make sure that you have a follow-up. Don't let every lead that comes in is important. Make sure you follow up until they say, don't call me anymore. And it's not to bother them, but always make sure it's a shift from selling to giving value.
Right.
I don't know, you're still young, but, back in the day, it used to be you'd walk into a store and it would be, how can I help you? And they would help you with different things. In this fast-paced world, we've gotten kind of away from it. But I think it's cycling back over the last few years, especially. It's gone crazy. I don't want to go on LinkedIn because I get a sales pitch every person I talk to. I don't want to open up my email because I got 300 sales, but the ones that stand out are, how can you help people? Get back to caring, stopping and enjoying the moment with that person. How can you help them? And there's a lot of sayings about, helping. If you continue to help people, the money will follow. And that's what I've done with my software company. And my goal was always to give somebody a good experience helping them and not worrying about the money. Because if the first thing you think about is how much money I'm going to make from this person, you've got too much stress on you already that you're not thinking about that other person. You're thinking about your solution.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. I've done that too. I've learned when you just put that aside, it's like things come, but if you lead with your heart, you honestly want to help people, you have more of a tendency to attract the right people anyway for your business.
And surround yourself with like-minded people. When I've always thought when I was hiring people, I wanted somebody that would listen, that cared about doing a good job. And then I would teach them what they needed to know. The character of the person was more important to me than what they knew.
Yeah. Nope, absolutely. I agree. And I'm glad that we met and that you are able to come on the show, because there are many people I know that are struggling with marketing, or they know they should do it, but they don't want to do it because there's a lot. Like you said, it's taken you a lot of years. You've learned, you've done the programming. So you kind of have a step up. So I want to thank you for sharing some of your strategies and your knowledge with everybody here today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm hoping that we get a few people that we can help.
Absolutely. So yeah, you have like a couple minutes left. Is there any last bit of advice or things that you want to leave everybody with today?
Make sure you have a balance in life. Don't work 18 hours a day because you want to get there, because 10 years later you'll still be working 18 hours a day.
Yes, you will. You don't make the right changes, nothing changes.
Have that life balance. Be happy. Get a puppy.
Mark has what, 3, 4?
4.
4 big puppies. You'll see him in the picture. But Mark, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing that with us today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
So everybody listening, if marketing is not your thing and you need some tips and techniques, like Mark said, it's free for consultation. He provides a lot of good free education and training that can help get you started, and he can help keep you on track. So definitely reach out to him, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.